Sabrina. So today we are going to do episode 2 of Minimalism. So I wanted to talk about how to become a minimalist. So this is not necessarily how to become a minimalist for you, but this is my journey, and I wanted to kind of show you how I went from nothing like a minimalist to where I am now, because I talk a lot about me and my daughter living out of a backpack and how we basically have nothing and still live very happy. But it didn't just happen like that overnight. It definitely took a lot of trial and error, as well as just progression over time for me to realize what I do and don't need, and other situations that happen that made me realize you really don't need those things. So let's get started with when we moved to New Mexico. So we moved to New Mexico in around 2015, and Safari was about 1 year old. And we moved in with a friend for a little while, and then we moved into our own apartment. And so, I don't know, I was having this kind of new mom, I guess, experience, wanting to give your child the world, right? And so I lived with my mom for the first year of Safari's life and couldn't really give her too much because we just shared a small room together. And so when we got our own apartment in New Mexico, that's where I felt like I want to give her so much. I want her to have a room that looks like a magazine cover and all of that stuff. So then I started designing her room. And this, by the way, is a time where I barely worked at all. 2015, I made the least money in my entire life, $7,000 for the entire year. So that being said, I put plenty of stuff on credit cards. So that was a whole different story. But I made her room look like a Minnie Mouse paradise. She had a library corner. She had a Minnie Mouse toddler bed. She had a Minnie Mouse beanbag chair, Minnie Mouse all over the walls. She had all of this stuff, right? It looked amazing. If I could find a picture, I'll insert a picture here. But yeah, so then we started having all of the walls in the entire apartment painted so that she could have primary colors for the dining room, which was her play area, and all this stuff. Anyways, so we had tons of stuff. We had 2 couches in the living room. We had a 65-inch TV. We had my bed. We had all her stuff in her room. It was a lot, right? And then once I got our apartment perfect, I got a new job in Texas. So that kind of ruined it all, right? And so I had to move to Texas, move all of this stuff to Texas. And so I rented a U-Haul. That cost money. And I filled up the U-Haul by myself. And that was difficult, being that I had a 65-inch TV along with 2 couches. And so I kind of did it pretty much myself, putting everything into the U-Haul. But when I got to Texas, again, no one there to help me. So that was a really big eye-opener to me. I asked at least a handful of people to help me move from New Mexico to Texas. By the way, this is an hour drive of a move. It's not like I moved like a plane right away or anything. And so nobody had time to help me. So I was just like, okay, so now I feel kind of helpless. I ended up asking some neighbors that were walking by if they could help me take the couches and the TV upstairs, and it made me feel pathetic, and I never wanted to feel like that again. So after that move and I got everything upstairs, I knew that I wasn't going to be in Texas for very long. I ended up working at that location for 6 months before I transferred to California, and during that 6 months, I sold everything. I sold at least half my wardrobe, and I used to wear suit and tie type stuff to work when I worked on base. And I sold all of the furniture, the couches, the TV, my bed, everything from Safari's room. I sold everything. And so I was able to move to California with 2 loads in my Dodge Charger. So I went to visit and I took a lot of stuff, and then I moved there and I took the rest of the stuff. And it filled pretty much the entire Charger, maybe 1.5 times. So I still had quite a bit. And so then we moved to California, and we were there for 6 months or so. And we got rid of a little bit of stuff there, but not too much. And then we moved to Panama City. And so when we moved to Panama City, that's when I was minimalist, I guess some people would call it, but I still didn't consider myself that because I still had a lot of clothes, and I also still had a lot of makeup. This is when I was still in my like Barbie phase. And so then we moved from Panama City to California to get ready to move to China. So when we did that, we got rid of a lot of stuff from Panama City. And that's when I would consider myself more minimalist, when we left Panama City. And so we go to California to get ready for China. And my mentality going to China was that I needed to prepare for the end of the world. So I needed to bring a tent. I needed to bring a blow up air mattress, like a camping one or whatever. I needed to bring all this stuff and it needed to fit in one backpack. So that was interesting to say the least, but like that backpack, I swear, weighed like 50 pounds. When I got to China, I was like, I don't care how much this stuff costs, I'm throwing it all away. Like, I don't need it, this was stupid. And my friend convinced me like, no, just like hold off or whatever. And so I ended up coming back like a couple months later and bringing all that stuff back with me. But yeah, so that was another experience that just kind of showed me like, you really don't need all of this stuff. And I'm proving that time and time again. So another example, when we left China in June of 2019, we thought that we were coming right back. So we thought we were gonna come back to America, we were gonna get our visas changed, and we were gonna go back. We had an apartment there, and we had paid for it for an entire year and only lived there for 3 months. And surprise, surprise to us, my visa got denied. And we have a video on that on this channel if you wanna check that out. But yeah, so we left all of our stuff in China, our first aid kit, which I worked hard on, like most of our clothes, like everything we left in China, like all of our dishes we had acquired, like so much stuff we left in China. And we just brought a backpack of stuff with us back to America, thinking we were only going to be here for a month. So that taught me a lot. There was a couple things that I had to repurchase, but most of it I was like, do I really want to spend money on this a second time, you know? And that really got me thinking. So there's another example of kind of God just showing me like, you don't need all of this stuff, you know? So then after China, we went to Mexico, and that's when I really got into my naturalist type journey of having no hair and not wearing makeup and getting even more minimal with my wardrobe. And so that's kind of where I'm at now, give or take. And now that we're in Mississippi, we've experimented with different things, which is also what I wanted to talk about in regards to, everybody who's a minimalist says this, but it's true. You don't need to compare yourself to other people, especially on YouTube. It's your journey, and you are, I'm sure, different than me in the sense that you might be married, you might have 2, 3, 4 kids, you might have had your house for 10 years and 10 years of stuff has accumulated, you know? So you have to take all of those things in consideration when you start this minimalist journey, and only compare yourself to yourself the day before. Right? If you can get rid of one thing that you don't use anymore every day, you're winning. So me, when we came to Mississippi, we started kind of experimenting with different sports. So we got stuff to play tennis. We got a volleyball. We got, what else did we get? I think those might be the 2 main things. Oh, we got snorkel masks, like the full snorkel mask with a snorkel on top. And all of those things turned out to be fails, which makes me feel so bad, like, about myself for spending money on those things. But it was an experiment, you know, trial and error. And Safari's gonna start soccer when we go back to California, so that's gonna be another experiment. But as long as we do these things together and we find like, oh, maybe we could have done that a better way. Maybe we could have asked a neighbor if they had tennis rackets that we could have borrowed to experiment first, you know? And then also something I wanted to talk about was my experiment with food and stocking up on food and medicine. So when the pandemic happened, like, I wasn't one of those like crazy people that was like, oh, we gotta stock up, the world's gonna end. But I just wanted to be prepared. I'm always the one in my family that's prepared for the most part, you know, like some of my family's prepared, but I take that upon myself to like make sure that my family is taken care of, you know? So I went out and spent a couple $100 like at the beginning of the pandemic on food that would be shelf stable. And then when we came to Mississippi, I did an experiment, not really having anything to do with the pandemic, but kind of wanted to see if I could buy enough groceries for the year because we didn't have a car here. So I was like, my mentality was like, I don't want to burden myself with going to the grocery store and trying to get enough for a certain amount of time, but still having to carry that on my bike along with Safari on my bike. And it just seemed like a hassle. And I like a very simple and minimalistic life. So I went with my friend and we got all of our groceries. And then I also had Walmart deliver. And so I had all of our groceries, the fridge, the freezer was full, and then the cabinet was full. So that was an epic fail, and I don't suggest that for someone like me, I guess, because first of all, I am not going to stay the same throughout 1 year. That's just not gonna happen. Like, I evolve so much, even month to month. And so now I'm really into wanting to live a more, I don't like labels, but wanting to live a more fruits and vegetables type lifestyle, cooked or uncooked, but not saying that we're gonna like completely cut out meat or anything, but I wanna lean more toward that direction. And I can't really do that with like all of the groceries that I bought for this entire year, you know? So I've wasted a lot of food. I am going to admit to that, but I learned a very valuable lesson in this whole food for a year concept, right? And then also I stocked up on medicines, not too much, but in the sense of feminine hygiene, which I think is very important to always have on stock, and as well as vitamins for me and for Safari, which I'm actually trying to like wean us off of. So we're taking 1 a day instead of taking 2 a day, the gummies, and things like that, just because there was the scare of not knowing if like China is still going to produce these things for us and bring them here. I don't want politics on my channel. I just wanted to prepare my family. So anyways, that's why I stocked up on those things. But besides that, like, I just wanted to show you that sometimes you acquire a lot of things because of a certain reason, and that's okay as long as you evaluate yourself throughout time. And every month just be like, okay, what have we acquired this month and what do we need to get rid of this month, you know? And make sure that that's always a balance. Some people say the 1 in, 1 out rule. Like, I don't like sticking to rules like that. I just like doing what feels right. So we have been moving every 6 months, and we're moving next month back to California. So that's another way that we make sure that we don't accumulate things, because we have to pack them all up. So it makes it simpler if you pack up less stuff. So that's another way. Maybe go through one room in your house every month and make sure you get out everything that you don't use. Another thing that I heard in regards to your clothing is turn all of your hangers around so that they're like the opposite direction, and then when you use it, put it back in the right direction. So the ones that are facing the wrong direction, you know you haven't worn those for a significant amount of time. I thought that was interesting. So if you guys want to know more about minimalism or my journey or how to start your journey, please let me know and I would love to help you. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in our next video. Bye.